here. Welcome to Backroads Living. In today's video, we're going to talk about long-term food storage. And when I say long-term food storage, I mean foods that are going to last for a long time in your pantry. These are things that you're going to purchase and you're going to store them correctly in your pantry, and they're going to last you, some of them, indefinitely. So if you're new to prepping, or if you've been prepping for a long time and maybe you don't have some of these foods in your pantry, I would highly recommend that you get these things in your pantry now, because inflation, food shortages, supply chain breakage, all these things are happening. We see a lot of empty shelves throughout our country right now in many different stores. And the reason for that is basically a supply chain breakdown. Not necessarily shortage of food, some may be, but a lot of it is the supply chain breakdown. And when we store food, we want to try to keep as much air out of them as possible. That air is one of the worst things in the world that you can get in a bag or in a jar or anything like that if you're storing foods. You want to keep that out of it. Air will destroy your food. One of the ways we store a lot of our foods is vacuum seal. We have a vacuum seal machine and bags, and just like our flour and our meal and our rice, our beans, pastas, different things like that, we will put them in a vacuum seal bag and vacuum seal. You don't need oxygen absorbers when you do this, because this sucks all the air out of the bag, and this will make your stuff last years and years longer than they normally would. We also vacuum seal a lot of stuff in our jars. They make a vacuum seal cap to fit the jars also. If you can't vacuum seal your jars, fill them as close to the top as possible. Make sure they will seal airtight, and then drop an oxygen absorber down in them and seal them that way. Oxygen absorbers will work for that. Another way that we can seal things are in Mylar bags, and they make Mylar bags in all sizes. You can get them from, I think, maybe from a pint all the way up to 5 gallon at least. 5 gallon bags are excellent for 5 gallon buckets. If you have a lot of stuff you're going to store in a bucket and you're not going to need it anytime soon, you might want to use a Mylar bag for that. You can stuff that Mylar bag full of everything you can get in it, drop your oxygen absorber down in it, and then seal it. Mash the air out and then seal it. And just put your lid on your bucket, and it's stored for ever how long that type of stored food lasts for. But of course, if you open it, you'll have to reseal it again. And they are resealable. Mylar bags, just like the vacuum seal bags. You know, you cut behind your seal, and you can reseal that and reuse them. One of the things that we recommend with this in storing anything is to keep it out of the light. You don't want to expose this stuff to light. It will cause your food to last less and less of time. It really hurts the duration of your food. When we vacuum seal our food, we put them in tubs and close the lids and set them in a closet, out of sunlight, out of normal light. They rarely ever see the light of anything, just a closet light every now and then being turned on, and that's about it. You want to keep them out of extreme heat and extreme cold situations if you can. Like I say, we keep ours in a regulated temperature, and extreme heat and extreme cold, or moving from one temperature to the other like that will affect the food itself. You don't want to store them in an attic or in an outbuilding where it's going to be 100 degrees all summer long and sub-zero in the winter, and you need to try to get it as regulated as you can. Another thing is you want to put them in containers if you're going to be storing it where you have access, or where rodents might possibly have access to your foods. You want to store them in containers that the rodents cannot eat through, because they will definitely gnaw through anything you put there if they can get get to it. They're really bad for that. So foods that are good for really long-term storage, what are some of these foods? Let's mention those right now. One of the things that I highly recommend is raw honey. And when I say raw honey, I mean raw honey, not processed honey. Raw honey is much more nutritious for you, and it's going to last forever if you don't heat it all up. They found honey that's been buried for thousands of years. And I know a lot of people get discouraged when their honey starts getting kind of hard in the bottom. But don't be discouraged. You can set your honey down in some warm water, and that honey will melt right back into liquid form, and you can continue to use it. It doesn't hurt. It won't be. You don't want to heat it up real hot, but just warm water, and it will definitely bring it back to a liquid form, and you can continue to use it. Don't throw your honey out because it gets hard. No, just keep reheating it up like that, warming it up like that, and keep using it because it's really good for you. Honey's a wonderful superfood, good for a lot of things. If you want to look that up, please feel free to do so, and you'll be surprised at all the benefits of honey. Actually, we have a video on here, on our channel here, about some superfoods. If you'd like to look that up, just type in the search bar superfood. There's a little magnifying glass down underneath this video, and put your cursor in there and type superfoods in it, and it should take you right to that video. The next thing that I'd like to mention is beans. Now, beans, but these things have a storage life of just years and years and years and years, and just right on and on and on and on. I saw Howie, before he passed away, he had opened up a 5-gallon bucket of beans that had been stored for 10 years. And they were as fresh as they were the day he stored them. And he had just poured the beans right out in the bucket. He didn't have them in Mylar. He didn't have them in anything. He had just put them in an airtight bucket and stored them. And 10 years later, they were still just as good as the day he stored them. The only thing about beans is that the older they get, it takes a little bit longer to cook them, okay? And I know that a lot of people process their beans in ovens to store them, to vacuum seal them, and that may cause them to take a little longer to cook. I'm not sure, but I do know that it'll stop them from being replantable, because pinto beans, when you buy them like that, you can replant them in your garden and grow more beans. But once they've been heated up in your oven like that, I don't think you would be able to use them for seed anymore. Another thing is salt. Now, salt is another one of those products that's been around for thousands of years. Still dig it right out of the ground, and it just lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. And if your salt gets a little bit chunky on you, don't worry about it. Don't throw it out. Absolutely not. Just bust it up and use it. It's really good. Salt is a wonderful product for seasoning foods. And there's several different kinds of salts. There's the pink Himalayan that a lot of people really like, the pink Himalayan salt. And here recently, we've not been able to find it in our Dollar Trees at all. For a while there, they had it all the time. But the last few months, I've not found any pink Himalayan salt in our Dollar Trees. And like I say, a lot of people really like the pink Himalayan salt. Of course, the iodized salt that most people, table salt they call it, that most people season their food with. And then, of course, you have the sea salt. A lot of people like sea salt. And of course, canners don't want to forget your canning salt. Those are things that you might want to keep in your pantry that have just an indefinite life to them. They'll be here long after we're gone if we store them correctly. When not set, none of this stuff you don't want to set in extreme heat, cold, or direct light, especially sunlight like that. Another thing is, I've mentioned this before in some of my other videos, is vinegar. Now, just regular distilled white vinegar, and I would recommend both vinegars, and apple cider vinegar. These things are absolutely wonderful, and they last forever. You can't get too much of them. The uses for vinegars, oh my goodness, how many uses is there for getting vinegars? Don't have time to list them. There's so much of it. Everything from cleaning to washing to everything in the world. You can doctor wounds and bee stings and all kinds of stuff with apple cider vinegar and white vinegar as well. There's just there's a huge list of things you can do with vinegar. Get online and look that up. If I'm not mistaken, there may be a list of vinegar uses on our website at backroadsliving.com. Right in the there's a link to that in the description of this video. So just if you go over there to our website, scroll down to the bottom of the page and type in vinegar, and it'll bring up all of our articles that we've written about vinegar. So go over there and check that out if you want to. Another item is rice. Now we store white rice. I'm not talking about the brown rice. The brown rice will go rancid on you, but white rice. We buy a lot of white rice and store it. We bring it home and we put it in the freezer. We let it set for 4 days. That gives it time to kill any kind of critter that might be in it. Then we set it out for a couple of days to allow it to come back to room temperature. Then we vacuum seal it and we put it back in our tubs. And this stuff will last you for who knows how long, folks. I mean, this stuff will just last and last and last and last. And it just, this is stuff that, these are things that you need to have in your pantry really bad. Because all this other stuff may run out, it may go rancid, it may go bad. So many things that you need refrigeration for that you're not going to be able to use. But these things I'm talking to you about right here, you do not need any kind of refrigeration for, and you can keep them forever in your pantries. The next thing is sugar. Sugar is another one of those things that will last forever and ever and ever. Now you can preserve sugar, and when I say vacuum seal sugar, I'm not talking about using like a vacuum sealer for sugar. You might want to put your sugar in something and maybe like a Mylar bag, and just maybe push the air out of it all you can, and then seal it. Because if you vacuum seal it, you may create just a rock. And sugar's going to get a little bit hard on you over a period of time if it sits long enough. But that's another one of those things that you can just bust up and use. I mean, you can bust it right back up into powder form. So don't worry about sugar doing that. And if it does that, that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it needs a good whack on the head and bust it up and use it anyway. Another thing is, now, I listened to somebody talk about some of these things last week, and it gave me the idea to do this. Okay, I got most of these from another prepper, but these were things that I have in my pantry, and these are things we use. And I thought, my goodness, we have every bit of that, and I just hope everybody else does too. So I'm sharing this kind of as a repeat also, but soy sauce. Now I like soy sauce. I like soy sauce in a lot of stuff. But soy sauce is another one of those things. If you keep sealed up and you know, keep out of the weather and keep it out of the light, all this stuff will last for a long time. If you keep this stuff sealed up, it lasts forever on your shelves. Another thing that I really like is maple syrup. Now this is pure maple syrup. I'm not talking about refined maple syrup like who makes maple syrup? Aunt Jemima or some of those like that. I'm not talking about that. Even though that stuff's good, I like that stuff. I like the taste of that stuff too. But I'm talking about pure maple syrup. If you have a farmer or somebody around that makes their own syrup, or you can purchase it somewhere where it's been made and it's pure maple syrup, that's what you want. That stuff will last forever and ever and ever and ever. And it is so good to cook and bake with when you need it. Another thing, and I've mentioned this before in videos, I know, is alcohol. Now, I personally don't drink, neither does Sandy. We don't drink any alcoholic beverages of any kind. If you do, that's your business. But alcohol is good in the form of things like whiskeys, or especially vodkas to make tinctures with. And in a bind, you could use alcohol to sterilize a wound. And great for bartering. If you have some extra and you run out of food and people need alcohol for whatever the purpose may be, it's a good bartering tool. And let's talk about baking soda. Now, not baking powder, I'm talking about baking soda. Baking soda will last you, if you keep it, sealed up, it will last you indefinitely again. It's another one of those things that'll be there forever and ever and ever. And there are tons of recipes out there that call for baking soda. Lots and lots of recipes that do that. So that's another thing. And I think that made 10 things that you would really like. You would really like it in a long run if we had a grid down and it was an extended grid down. You would be glad to have these in your pantry. And one thing that I'm going to add to this, and so did this other person, it was almost like they were talking to me, because I was like, yes, 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 and yes. But the last thing that I would recommend is, and this is number 11, this is just like a bonus, I guess you might say, is instant coffee. Instant coffee will last. I have never seen instant coffee that was bad. I've never seen any that was bad. And as long as you keep the lid tight on it, it's going to be there. And I'm telling you, if you're a coffee drinker, even if you don't drink instant coffee, you'll drink it in a grid down situation. You'll drink it in a lights out situation if you can get to it. Because, man, coffee is just, I'm one of those people that I like my morning coffee. Now, yes, I could learn to do without it, but I would not want to have to, because I really do enjoy drinking a cup of coffee or two. And I have been known to drink 3. And if you're a coffee drinker, you know what I mean. But those are some things that I wanted to share with you that I felt maybe that we hadn't really talked about before. Some things that everybody, no matter who you are, you can afford these things. Probably the most expensive thing I've mentioned here might be the maple syrup or the alcohol. But even at that, if you'll budget a little bit, you can put these things back and have them. And we've talked about medical, our first aid kits and things like that here just a few days ago. And I didn't mention alcohol in that, but now that's a good thing to put in your first aid kit because it's just good for cooking. Also, you can use it in cooking. You can use it in all sorts of things. So alcohol is a good thing to have also. But anyway, I want to say thank you guys, and I appreciate you. And I hope that that these are things that if you don't have, that you do get. If you do have them and you know a lot of good uses for them, give us a shout out there. And alcohol, like I said, you can make tinctures out of it. All kinds of medicines. So I don't know what all kinds of medicines. That's something I need to research a little bit more. But all this stuff is good, and it'll see you through hard times. That's the main thing, is it'll be there when you need it. When you go to the pantry, it'll still be right there waiting on you. So thank you guys. We appreciate you. We love you so much. And as always, we hope that you keep yourself prepped. First thing is always prep your souls. Make sure you're right with the Lord Jesus Christ. The second thing is to prep those pantries. Get this stuff in it. We'll see you in the next video.